Okay, hey, welcome to an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today, another cool review for you guys from the brand Baltany. A little about them. They were founded back in 2010, and their mission is pretty simple. Redesign classic, iconic timepieces using the latest watchmaking technology. Their goal is to create the most historically accurate homages ever while maintaining the spirit of the original iconic timepieces along with their own modern reinterpretations. Now, in terms of the type of watch, I'd consider this a dress watch. Some key characteristics in design language. You're looking for something you can dress up. Of course, you're going to have that relatively clean and minimalist design language in a modestly sized package. This is known as their quote-unquote retro dress watch. Their S4094 in the purple dial colorway, and it's an homage to the Rolex Datejust with their signature fluted bezel paired to a Jubilee bracelet. These go for $204 direct, and I think they're pretty special. I mean, Baltany, again, they're pretty much known for their higher level of execution and quality. Of course, the trade-off is going to be the fact that they are very clearly homage watches, and that's typically going to be the trade-off. You can get something that's going to be a bit more original and everything like that, but typically you're going to be sacrificing some of the higher level of finishing and refinement in terms of that price point, versus, you know, sometimes on the other side of the spectrum is what Baltany does, where they give you something that is finished to a very, very high level in terms of its execution, but again, they save money in terms of the design side because they're just borrowing and refreshing existing and popular and, you know, relatively desirable designs, right? So again, it's not a, you know, zero sum kind of, you know, right or wrong answer. There's always going to be a variation to each approach, and I think this is on one end of the spectrum an admirable type of approach to take. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, so I mean, handsome piece. Now, it doesn't speak to everyone, and neither would the genuine Rolex Datejust, but for those of you that are interested in something like this, this is going to hit a lot of the same notes, of course, at a much more affordable price point. And as long as you're okay with it saying Baltany on the dial instead of Rolex, then I think you're going to be pretty okay with what you're getting here at the price point. These go for $204 direct from the brand. And of course, this particular review unit was sent in free of charge by the brand. Now, in terms of the dimensions, you're getting a 39 millimeter diameter and 11.6 millimeter thickness there, and then a 47.4 millimeter lug to lug 316L stainless steel construction. You're getting, of course, an all polished case here. Quite nice. And of course, the only thing you're going to notice is that it's polished, so there's going to be more room for fingerprints and smudging and all that. But, you know, of course, thankfully, they do have some nice satin brushing on the bracelet. Everything flows quite handsomely here, guys. And this purple dial is, yeah, it was my pick. So there's a couple of different variations available if you follow the link down in the description. For me, this is the one that kind of stood out. I'm a big fan of purple, not necessarily in watches, but I do really find myself gravitating towards the color, not necessarily for me to wear, but I just think it's a really great tone. It might just be the Filipino in me because I love ube. So if you're Filipino and you're watching this, or you love Filipino food, you know what I'm talking about. Go ahead and comment ube, your favorite ube dessert, down in the description. Now, in terms of the way this looks, guys, again, pretty straightforward homage here. Really, the only thing they changed up in terms of the, you know, the indices there that are very clearly Roman numerals is going to be at the 12 o'clock. You're going to get that Baltany B. Now, you get this beautiful fluted bezel. You can see that plays with the light fantastically. The execution here, guys, let's just take a closer look. It is very tight. Look at the tolerances on that end link there. Very nice. Again, sharp to the eye, not sharp to the touch. So very well finished. And then, of course, you're going to have something that's, you know, a little less involved in terms of the bracelet. But I will say, surprisingly refined. Check out the underside, you're getting some nice bevels on that scissor folding section so that you can make sure that it is going to be soft on the skin on the underside of your wrist. So I thought that was very, very neat there, and just a nice another one of nice I should say another nice point in terms of attention to detail. Now the movement inside, although you can't see it through this very sterile, solid case back, is going to be your automatic Seiko Instruments NH35. So great hacking, hand-windable movement. 41-hour power reserve, beats at 3 hertz or 21,600 vibrations per hour in terms of that beat rate. So absolutely workhorse would be the appropriate title for that type of movement. It's going to do the job. Getting into the dial details, guys, that purple sunray dial with the date there at 3 o'clock. Also, you're going to get black numerals over a white disc, so it's going to be more contrasting. And I think with this colorway, it does make sense. You're also going to get those, of course, those applied Roman numerals, and you're going to have some really cool, like, probably pretty small. You won't notice them as much now, but you will when we get to some Lume shots here. They do have little super luminova Lume plops in that outer track. You do also get the polished handset with Lume on the hour and minute hands as well. Again, this is definitely more of a dress watch, although with its 39mm diameter, it definitely kind of skews into an everyday wearable dress watch, which I can appreciate. You're also going to get a screw down crown, which is also nicely signed there. Of course, I'm going to go ahead and give it a quick wipe here just so you can get a little bit of an unobstructed view of that oyster style case. Check it out. Very nice, very clean, beautifully executed there. You're going to get, with that screw down crown, 100 meters of water resistance, so 10 atmospheres, which is definitely, well within that range for that everyday wearable timepiece. You're going to get 20mm lugs, so that's fantastic in terms of if you want to put this on any different type of strap. 20mm is definitely the most ubiquitous option that's out there. Now, this 316L stainless steel Jubilee style 5-link bracelet, I think they did a wonderful job on it. It does have screw pin construction, and it does have a nice taper from 20mm down to about 15.9 or 16mm to this section here. Nicely milled and contoured there, guys. Signed 18.4mm milled push button clasp there, as you can see, with 4 positions of manual micro adjustment. I'm gonna again give it a quick wipe here off camera so that you guys can get a nice clean look at those fine high polished bevels. Very, very nice, and you can see nicely signed. If I can, there it is. And yeah, again, for $204, this is a whole lot when it comes to the execution in terms of the return on that investment. Again, design-wise, of course, this is not an original design or release, but they have done their due diligence in terms of executing something at a very high level that does recreate a similar look and feel as to something that is already existing and quite desirable. So with that said, let's go ahead and put this on the wrist and see how it wears. Okay, as you guys can see on my 7.5-inch wrist, I think it wears really well. Of course, 39mm versus sometimes you see these in more of a 36mm option, but I do think the 39 works really well here. And of course, today's modern Datejust, you'll find even up to 41mm. So I think the 39 hits a bit of a sweet spot. Of course, if I get my wrist a bit too close to the camera lens there, you're going to get quite a bit of perspective distortion. It's going to make the watch just seem a bit larger than it actually is. So I like to just keep my wrist nice and low. And look at that. All of a sudden, the watch seems a lot more centered in terms of the case over the flat of my wrist. And then you're going to see a lot more of the bracelet. So what I'll do is leave my wrist there and then tighten up the frame so that you guys can get still a detailed look, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio as to how this may lay on your own wrist. And yeah, it's a looker. Now, guys, even if a Rolex Datejust was in my budget, I probably wouldn't buy one because I'm not huge into dressy watches. So something like this for a collector, where maybe it scratches an itch, maybe it just fills a genre, or maybe it's going to be the thing that convinces me, if it finds itself on my wrist more and more, that I do need to invest in something, at a higher level. But the nice thing is I'm not taking a shot in the dark. I'm not diving in head first. I'm dipping my toes in. And at this price point, I don't think you're going to be hurting anybody spending $204 on something like this, figuring out if this is a watch that would gravitate to your wrist, if it is something that you would get your money's worth out of. I'm a big sports watch guy, and I like all different genres within those sports pieces. But I will say, there is something to an everyday dress watch in terms of its level of elegance, its level of execution, and just overall level of effort that they do into making such a tidy, piece here that just, I feel like, does more than enough. Again, I do consider this a dress watch, but definitely more kind of in that everyday dress watch category, especially when you consider the fact that it does have a steel bracelet, a screw down crown, and 100 meters of water resistance. So with that said, let's go ahead, get this off the wrist, set up for some Lume shots, the light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Hey, as you can see, although not a sports watch, it does have that everyday carry kind of ability there in terms of it having a middle lume, so you can see this in pitch black lighting conditions. Of course, one thing I was going to like to work in is going to be a bit of a low light transition, because I was going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it is nice with these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. And again, the nice thing is you're going to go through quite some transitions there in terms of, high contrast to some lower contrast spaces. But thanks to the dial, it does a nice job of keeping contrast, I think, at bay, right? It's not overly sharp or contrasty. It's something that's still going to be soft on the eyes. But the nice thing is you're going to absolutely be able to read all of that information. So very, very cool. Again, guys, not too much to talk about because this is an existing design. It's just made a lot more accessible by the brand Baltany. So guys, closing thoughts on the wrist, classic proportions, great for everyday wear. In terms of model variants, it is available in 5 different color combinations. Check the site links for options and availability. In terms of comparable models, guys, as per the usual, Baltany are really undercutting the competition by a fair margin, while also offering an impressive level of fit and finish that can more than hold its own against watches costing 2 and 3 times as much. So 2 and 3 times as much as $200. That's pretty decent, right? We're talking $400 to $600 models, and I think this definitely does that. It's a very, very cool piece. Again, if you're okay with the aesthetic, if you're okay with the fact that it is, in fact, an homage watch from a brand that is known for homages. So I know this isn't going to be for everybody, but for those of you that do like to dabble in existing styles but don't want to pay that heritage mainstream money, I feel like this definitely could be a very solid option. Bottom line, guys, at just $204, this classy and well executed Datejust Homage will scratch the itch for many a watch enthusiast who could never justify trying to pay for a genuine Rolex, or it could also easily serve as a placeholder to gauge real-world wearability before committing to the real thing. And again, guys, I'm not a huge dress watch person. I do, because of the channel, I own quite a few dress watches as well. But they're not something that I, wake up in the morning and get excited about wearing. So yeah, to imagine paying for the genuine article here, I probably would not be too enthused about it. So something like this, I think, is fun, and again, can help scratch the itch. Of course, it's not as good as the genuine Rolex, but it does offer you something that's a little different, a little bit fun, and again, it doesn't take itself too seriously, which I can appreciate. So with that said, let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please do a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.